There's an explosive development regarding the search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Multiple people briefed on the matter told the New York Times that in total, the government has retrieved more than 300 documents marked classified from Donald Trump's possession. NBC News has yet to independently verify this report. And we know those documents include more than 150 that were initially retrieved in January, which NBC News now reports included material with the most sensitive classification. Another batch returned by Trump's attorneys in June, and the documents we've all been talking about, those seized by the FBI earlier this month. All in all, that amounts to more than 300 classified documents containing who knows how many national secrets. Now, the materials seized, they were just chilling at Mar-a-Lago instead of securely stored with the federal government. That is crazy. And NBC News has learned more about the timeline regarding Donald Trump's lawyers and the events leading up to the search. On May 11th, Trump accepted service of a grand jury subpoena seeking classified documents. Less than a month later, a senior Justice Department official and 3 FBI agents arrived at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump personally granted them access to a storage room. On June 8th, they requested that Donald Trump secure that room, leading him to put a lock on the storage door. On June 22nd, the Department of Justice subpoenaed a Mar-a-Lago surveillance footage, and on August 8th, during the most recent search, Trump declined the FBI's request to turn off surveillance cameras. Donald Trump's team filed a motion for a, quote, special master, or a third party assigned to review seized materials to weed out privileged information. Now, this move would bar the federal government from further reviewing the seized documents until that special master is appointed. Responding to the motion, a spokesperson for the Justice Department said, quote, the August 8th search warrant at Mar-a-Lago was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause. The department is aware of this evening's motion. The United States will file its response in court. Let's get into this with our political panel. Emily Tish Sussman is a Democratic strategist and host of the She Pivots podcast. And Rena Shaw is a former Republican strategist and founder of Relax Strategies. Welcome to you both. Rena, I'm going to start with you because we've got this motion up on the screen. We're going to put it up there for folks. And I want to point your attention to the very first sentence of the introduction. Quote, politics cannot be allowed to impact the administration of justice, end quote. What is your response to that statement from Donald Trump's legal team? And do you think Donald Trump himself would agree?
Of course he wouldn't agree, because all his actions have spoken so much louder than any words he's put before a court. My reaction to Donald Trump's every wiggle, every move, is that he is a man who is scared. He is fearful. He is hiding something, because he knows in his heart of hearts, this was done by the letter of the law. This had to have cleared so many internal hurdles at the FBI before it made its way to a judge. And look, I was willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt here. Before this went to a judge, a search warrant, I didn't think that, okay, maybe this judge had the highest probable cause, but did he have the lowest? No, he didn't have that either. I thought somewhere in the middle. But now that we've learned more, now that we've learned that there were hundreds of classified documents, that this wannabe king, our 45th president of the United States, the former president Donald J. Trump, kept, that tells you everything right there. This man wanted to do something sinister with those documents. And I feel no sort of hesitation putting it out there, because there's no reason to hang on to that stuff. It's the American people's property, not his.
Definitely does not belong to him. Emily, the motion also accuses the FBI of aiming to hurt Donald Trump politically with this search. Yet we do know that days before the motion was filed, it was Donald Trump who bragged on his little social media site that the search boosted his poll numbers. Make it make sense for us.
Well, I think blaming everything on politicization. Did I just say that right? I'm not sure, but I think we're all familiar with the concept now, having lived in Trump's America. It's his go-to. He just thinks that everything is personal. Everything is about him. He thinks that everything is personally about him, not even politically. We see that with the way he refers to his supporters. We see that with the way he refers to staff around him, with politicians who may or may not endorse him. Everything has always been and will always be about him personally. I'm not sure I can guess what he planned to do with the information, because I think it ultimately just came down to him thinking that to your point, he did think he was the king. He thought he had the right to do it. We actually have seen that come from legal arguments before, and I'm sure we will again from his team, that because he was the president, he had the right to do it. The thing he does seem to keep forgetting is that in this country, the president is not above the law.
That is very true. In the words of Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, Donald Trump is not king. The law is king. Okay, I am done with that man for the rest of the day. Let's move to the broader threat to democracy. And, you know, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he recently minimized this threat. Take a listen to his response to NBC News' findings that threats to democracy overtook the economy as the top concern for Americans for the first time. Listen to this.
We have a very solid democracy. Very little election fraud. There is some. I mean, we've had people in Kentucky go to jail for that. It happens occasionally. But our democracy is solid, and I don't think of the things that we need to worry about, I wouldn't be worried about that.
Now, Rena, I have to say, I found it very interesting that his mind went to voter fraud, which he correctly stated occurs very rarely, but not to voter suppression and repeated efforts from within his own party to subvert the results of elections that they lose. What do you make of these comments?
Senator Mitch McConnell is somebody that has made me believe in term limits, has made me a strong supporter of them. And the way he sat in the Senate for this long, it's not because he's some brilliant strategist. He's no better than Donald Trump. He just wears different clothing and looks a little bit different. This sad turtle has come out of his shell. Why? Because he wants to defend himself. He wants to remain in power. This is a guy who won't even defend his wife. He's taking a page out of Ted Cruz's playbook here, not defending his wife from Trump's attack. He wins and wins again by tricking the American people. So why does he not think that democracy matters? Because he'll just tell his voters otherwise. This is how the Republican Party, in its current iteration, does things. The modern Republican Party has no shame. It is a party that knows that it peddles lies and misinformation so that their people can remain in power. These are the same cowards that won't stand up to Trump today after he has clearly broken laws and has not been indicted about that for those crimes. Because why? We have a debate about a president being above the law. It seems like that debate's happening in the Republican Party, right? So the fact that Mitch McConnell won't defend democracy, it has me giddy because I've always known this man has always been this way. I want to see him out. I want to see him out. Rena. This man needs to go. He needs to go.
I mean, look, the reality is, Rena has something to say today, Emily. You heard, I mean, she got something to say. The reality is, though, Mitch McConnell, he is going to be there. So, but that's another conversation for another panel, because I want to make sure we go beyond the Beltway and talk about Wisconsin, because Wisconsin, very important state, as we all know, coming up, not just for the midterm elections, but for 2024. And in Wisconsin, the incumbent Republican Senator Ron Johnson, he is in the news again. He dismissed concerns that a staffer of his sought to deliver a slate of pro-Trump fake electors to Vice President Pence. This is yet another attempt to subvert results of the 2020 election. Here's what he had to say recently. Take a listen.
Again, another grotesque distortion. I had nothing to do with the alternate slate. I had no idea that anybody was going to ask me to deliver those. My involvement in that attempt to deliver spanned the course of a couple seconds. I think I fielded 3 texts and sent 2 and talked to my chief of staff that somebody wants you to deliver something. I knew nothing about it. And in the end, those electors were not delivered because we found out from Vice President's staff they didn't want them delivered.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you actively twist yourself into a human pretzel. Now, Emily, we know that President Biden won the state of Wisconsin, and it is looking like a close race between Senator Johnson and his Democratic opponent, Mandela Barnes. Do you think voters are going to buy this explanation of his?
I can't think of an issue that Ron Johnson wants to talk about less with swing voters than being complicit in fake electors. It is a loser issue for him in a swing state like Wisconsin, starting with the fact that Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, running on the Democratic side, is doing well, connects with voters, and is running in some races 10 points ahead of Ron Johnson. When you're starting with that kind of name recognition, like Ron Johnson going into his 3rd term, that makes you nervous. because name recognition is not going to go up for him. He's basically hit the ceiling of voters who don't know him. He had started at the Trump administration as trying to separate himself slightly, somewhat, saying, hey, I'm your conservative Republican guy who connects with you guys. I talk about issues you care about. Lost that during the Trump administration. So for him to get dragged back in now as being complicit in the effort to try to install fake electors is terrible for him. The one who has possibility for name ID to go up is the Democrat Mandela Barnes. Look, Lieutenant Governor is number 2 in the state, but it's not the hugest platform of all time. He hasn't been on the top of the ticket the way that Ron Johnson has. So there's only opportunity for Mandela to go up and for Ron Johnson to go down, really, especially the more he has to talk about being tied in with overturning the election.
I think this is such an important point about name recognition. The policy differences are real, but voters just knowing who these candidates are in the states, when they go into that ballot box, they oftentimes just check the box of the person that they know. And folks are getting to know Ron Johnson very well. I will note that in that same interview, Senator Johnson also discussed same-sex marriage. Now, we do know that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas earlier this year said same-sex marriage should be reconsidered by the Supreme Court. House Democrats ended up responding by passing a bill to codify same-sex marriage into law. Now the conversation is in the Senate. Here's what Senator Johnson had to say about his potential vote.
I've got to see their amendment. We're working on an amendment as well. So, before I'd ever support that, again, it's completely unnecessary. You have to understand this. I mean, that bill is completely unnecessary. The decision on gay marriage will never be overturned. It's completely different than Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision. This is where stare decisis would be decisive. I do not see the Supreme Court overturning that, because that would impact millions of people that have been acted on that.
I would like to know the Roe decision impact millions of people. Rena, a Marquette poll from April of this year found that 72% of Wisconsin residents support same-sex marriage, including 58% of Republicans. That's an important number. You think that answer is going to be enough for them?
Not enough, because Republicans today, they want to pander to a very small faction of the party. And it's not MAGA, because MAGA is actually a greater faction of the party. Let's be honest. It's this Christian evangelical base that they raise money off of by the fear tactics of, listen, they don't like conservatives in the larger world, so we're going to protect you. That's why we got you your conservative justices. This is exactly what I hear in private Republican gatherings. Have heard it for years, but except now that fantasy is their reality, and that's where they operate from, Simone. It's as simple as that.
All right. Rena Shaw, Emily Tish Sussman. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both.
Thanks so much, Simone. Congrats on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. Indeed.